That's deep. That's way deeper than the guys on Instagram who do like barcode numbers.
That's fun. That's fun.
They're like, they went and got like Tampax pads and they're like, well, Tampax Gent.
Oh, man,
so
what
they play the barcode. It's like, oh, that actually goes hard.
Dude, I would love to just, I wish I had that idea. You can just make an empire of shorts, just short form content of.
An empire of shorts.
Nice. Do cucumbers Friday. Gent?
That would just be like, what's cucumber? 4889? Those are zucchini.
I don't know. But there's other barcode numbers too. Because you have the produce number and then you have like a barcode number for some of them.
Oh, yeah.
Hello. Welcome back to Phantom Power Hour. I'm Josh.
And I'm memorizing produce codes, apparently.
If I leave in that part before this, you'll know what he's talking about. If not, you're just going to have to wonder.
Brutal.
Before we get into it, thanks for joining us on this fine day.
Pause. Not a fine day. It's Friday the 13th.
I didn't even realize.
At time of filming.
I didn't even realize it was Friday the 13th.
Today's the day I kill you.
Well, had to happen sometime.
It was a good run.
Thanks for joining us on this, I guess, not so fine day of Friday the 13th. If you're new here, welcome. If you've been here for a while, welcome back. And if you haven't already, consider hitting that subscribe button. And if you need anything from Sweetwater, there's an affiliate link.
You know what, dude? We might cross 1,000 subs while we film this.
That'd be awesome. That'd be great.
999 of you are subscribed.
I have to see if I have a short scheduled for today or not.
That's all right with me.
Yeah.
Thanks, guys.
Indeed. Thanks, indeed. It's kind of wild that there's almost 1,000 people that will even listen to anything I say.
Pull up. I try to do this with every milestone for my channel. Pull up like a room with 1,000 chairs, or like a theater, 1,000-seat theater or something. There you go.
That's so wild,
isn't it? It's weird.
Now let's see.
Oh, I have not done this.
I don't know if any of these are specifically.
You have to go to Stadium for that.
You have to go to Stadium for that. Oh my goodness. So
That's
this is
horrifying.
This is how many people tune into the Recording Studio Loser channel and have subscribed.
You know what's even weirder? If you think about it on a monthly basis, like our typical like monthly views, 4 of those per month.
Yeah. It's like every weekend getting a packed out stadium.
That's horrifying.
That's insane. That's insanely cool. Congrats to Jeremy for crossing the 50,000 threshold and subscriber count yesterday, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you texted me.
Yeah.
You were on it more than I was, man.
Well, I checked it, and I am a little bit bummed because I didn't see right at 50,000. I think it was like 50,002 or something.
I didn't catch it either.
Yeah.
But, and not that I'm not thankful. I just try not to pay attention to it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. If you watch this, most likely you also watch Recording Studio Loser. If not, why not? Go check that out. That's where like the shorter formed kind of thought through stuff happens. This is not thought through at all. But the last video, as of recording this podcast that we put out was the $1,000 rig versus whatever the title says, $100,000 studio, $150,000.
It's more than that, but I think I put 100 because it just looked better on the title.
Nice round number.
But it was like, it's a little more than that, but
yeah. And 200 is like also in the ballpark, but can maybe feel disingenuous, I suppose.
Yeah. So we settled on 100,
but so we put that one out, and
matching your hands.
Good luck. I don't know what these things do half the time. We had a band come in. One of my buddies, Rebecca, had her band come in, Mother the Band, and
super cool.
I knew everybody in that band except for one person. Mm-hmm. And I had a group text with them, let them know that the video went live. And then a few days later, after it got a lot of traction and a bunch of comments started rolling in, there were so many people that were talking about how much they love the band.
Yeah.
And so I just reached out to them. I was like, hey, don't know if you guys have checked it out. Just want to give you an update. Everybody absolutely loves you guys.
Yeah.
And
That was most of the comments are like, this song gives me goosebumps.
yeah. So many people I forgot to even listen to the comparison because I just started listening to the song.
Which I think makes the point even more.
Yeah.
Like,
So my point of bringing all that up is Caitlin, the violin player, she replied and she was like, yeah, I don't look at the comments, but it's really nice to know that people liked it. I was like, that's the healthy thing to do. Yeah. Don't read the comments.
yeah. If you ever start a YouTube channel is out there and you have not, you should.
This
And
is
two,
true.
don't look at the YouTube Studio app a whole lot.
Yeah. And it's tough, especially like for me, like starting out, like part of it is it's like almost research on like, how can I keep doing the stuff that
You can go
is
down.
authentic, but also,
Yeah.
you know, is more digestible to a wider audience. But at the same time, it's like, just don't do it.
And you never quite, like, you feel like you have it figured out. Well, I'm not even going to say that, but you feel like I'm getting a handle on this and what type of things people want when you're in like a healthy state of mind.
Mm-hmm.
And then maybe you have one or two bad videos and you're like, well, what do you want? What do you want? And then like this relationship between you and the viewer
Yep.
is like this weird, it becomes this weird toxic thing. And I'm like, I'm never going to make everybody happy. And that's totally fine. Like that video, how many absolutely positive comments were there? So many. And I'm dwelling on like 2.
It's crazy how you hear this all the time. If you listen to any other like podcasters and stuff, this topic always comes up, but it's the idea of you hear 99 positive remarks and then you have one a-hole that says something mean to you. That's the only thing you're going to think about.
Yeah.
And like our brains, I guess, are just wired that way. I've heard it compared to primitive eras of humans where it was really important to be aware of the dangerous things around you. So that's what your brain latches onto. I don't know if that's real or true or not, but
I'll buy it.
it's a really strange phenomenon that happens with our brains, I think, where
Phenomenon.
phenomenon. That
That was not planned.
But to your point, that last video of the kind of rig shootout, if you want to call it that, that was very much just, I think, a video that you wanted to do.
I really wanted to do that video.
And look how it turned out. Turned out really well.
I was actually super nervous about it because that was a video, like, sometimes you'll get opportunities from sponsors and they're like, hey, if this works with something you're doing, cool. And nobody will ever dictate content, but it's rare.
Nobody that you work with will ever dictate.
Yeah. Okay.
content.
Yeah. There have been those situations and we did not make those videos.
Mm-hmm.
Which maybe that early on, I'm surprised. I'm glad I made that decision, but I would have had a lot more microphones if I would have made those videos.
Yeah.
But anyway, this was one where I was like, I went to the sponsor and I was like, I have an idea. I want to do this.
Mm-hmm.
And they're like, let's do it. So that was one I was like, I need this to work.
Yeah.
So my ideas aren't awful, but it worked. The comments in it are interesting. And I think I learned that not everybody that watches my channel, and this is dumb obvious. Like I'm still in the mindset that this is like a super teeny tiny little channel that only studio owners watch. And that is not the case.
Yeah. Not anymore.
And there's so many people who just want to be pissed and they don't even know which side they're on.
Yeah. I think there are a lot of people, at least judging by some of the comments I saw, that they don't really know why they're mad. They just know that they're going to be mad.
Yeah. Because I went back and forth with somebody just trying to clarify. And then I was like, oh no, you're just upset. Like, like, why would you do a test like this? Why would you put it through all your fancy gear? I'm like, no, that was the whole point. I don't have anything else. I only have the fancy gear in my studio. and I wanted to put it up against a cheap rig. That's the idea. I want to see how much of a difference is there. Well, then why'd you use the preamps? Are we going back? Like, do I need to explain the process of recording here? Like, without that, I can't record it.
There is a timestamp where it says like something along the lines of explaining the experiment or something like that.
But I think the hang up is like a lot of people are like, well, why did you process it?
Right.
But there's no way I can't do it, because I think when I've sat back and thought about it, I think some of the confusion may come from like, with a system like mine in the studio, there's not like an interface.
Right.
So it's not like I have an Apollo, and then you can use other preamps if you want to. I don't have that. I have a bank of converters, and then I need preamps and other things to actually make sound.
And to your point, the fact that it's a growing audience, there's going to be fewer and fewer people that have even come across something like that, or even realize that is how a lot of studios exist.
Yeah. And I think I need to do a better job in certain videos of explaining, like, okay, here's the super fast 101 level.
I think that would be good. We talked about this a couple of weeks ago of putting together a pool of kind of more entry-level educational videos.
Yeah.
I think that would be a good route to go. With this video in particular, I feel as though there were like 3 major groups of people. The majority of folks belong to a group that I believe understood the test, understood the experiment, and what the video was actually getting at.
Yeah, and then got some kind of value from it.
Exactly. I think there was another group that falls into what you were saying, where they maybe got confused or caught up on the wrong aspect of why are you using these pieces of the gear? This kind of nullifies the test, all that kind of stuff. And then I think there was a third group that they felt as though the experiment wasn't valid because you were using good microphones at the source.
Oh, I didn't see those.
Yeah, there were a handful of folks that were saying something along the lines of, well, who... I don't remember what it said. Something like, who would put a Soyuz into a Behringer preamp and all that kind of stuff.
Why not? That was the point of the test. That's what I wanted to see.
Yeah. And that's kind of what I wanted to get at, was that the test was not absolute cheapest everything.
No.
And it was the cheapest sound to computer.
It's judging like levels of importance in my mind. And like, I love microphones. Like, that is, there's like okay, I'm looking at this like a guitar player. Mm-hmm. There's different variables you can change in different pieces that change the sound in different ways to different values. Like, I can put different pickups in my guitar, and it might change it 0.2%. Ultimately, what it's going to do is change the output level.
Right.
Like, the frequency response of pickups are not crazy different. 90% of what you can get with different pickups, you can do with a parametric EQ pedal at the very beginning of your chain. So like, pickups are important. Sure. Crazy. No. That's kind of how I'm viewing like preamps in this situation. Like, is it fun to always record into Behringer pre's? Not really, because it's not going to sound like a record right off the bat. I'm going to do more work in the box to make it sound like a record. And then there's that whole push-pull of the performance, which then dictates like the most important of it, which is the performance. Yeah. So it's like
the performance, the storytelling, the song, the emotion that is kind of being pulled out of you as a listener.
Yeah. I learned a ton in that process. Like, and even like, I think what it's going to do for like, I'm not going to replace my stuff with Behringer preamps. It's just, I'm not going to do it.
That would be a wild idea.
Right. But what it did teach me was some of the habits that I've gotten into. Like, I mic things certain ways all the time. And then I always like, okay, well, this one goes with this preamp and this one goes with this. And I'm like,
right, yeah.
Now I'm going to be like, well, let me flip this on its head. Where are these differences? What's happening here in this palette? Mm-hmm. And so it's definitely opened my eyes to like those subtle which are subtle. There are subtle differences, but like getting out of those habits, and I'm like, I can still get a good product with anything.
Yeah. It really is wild listening to the mixes hop back and forth while the full song is playing, because it is hard to tell the difference. Like I could hear the differences happen, and I put the video together so they're way more apparent to me. And then we had a call after the first draft of the video, and we decided to have visual representation. There were a couple people that were like, you shouldn't have put that in there. It should have been a blind test, because now there's like the placebo of knowing when it changes.
But I feel like I did see that, but I think the placebo thing happens when you're trying to say something is better.
Right.
Or when you're trying to like say this is vastly different.
Yeah.
I didn't notice that big of a difference. So I wanted to trigger people into it to be like, how much of it? And you still didn't. Well, most of the people still said, it's pretty darn close.
Yeah.
I could make it work. So like placebo in that instance is almost working against that kind of preconceived notion of what should happen.
Oh, for sure. And the experiment was never, ever, is there a difference? The experiment was, how big of a difference is it?
Well, yeah. Yeah.
And that goes to your point where that's why inevitably we decided to put the visual representation on there, make it feel apparent when those mixes are changing. And even when it's apparent, my AirPods, which I edit with AirPods, and so with those in, it's like, boy, do I have to be actively listening aggressively to hear a difference.
Any amount of lossy translation on that in the differences kind of take a back seat, which even still they're like, well, what's the point? I'm listening on AirPods. Like, that is the point.
That is the point. How do you
That's
think most
absolutely the
consumers
point.
consume?
Yeah, I mean, and then because I'm like, there's two sides, and I can't play to both sides at the same time. Where I'm like, I'm important. I have a studio. You can't make records like me because I have this gear. But then I also can't be like, ignore all that. You don't need any of it. I just wanted to see like, what are the actual differences in just that piece? Because if you had all other things being equal and we used the same performance, and there were people saying the performances were different. Like,
They can't be.
no, they can't be for a test like this, and they weren't. We used splitters, and it was the exact same performance for both.
I saw a couple of people got hung up on, there are two different mics for vocals that you see.
Oh yeah,
And that is because you addressed this too and helped try to bring clarification, but that was because we had to overdub the vocals and the violin because we recorded everything as a live band, essentially one take. They played through the song a handful of times, both to have them warm up and get their parts the way they want them, and also so I could capture more footage to make an actual video out of.
Yeah.
If they only did one take and I'm the only guy holding the camera, you're not going to get a good video out of it.
yeah. And I think we originally were going to do like ISO booths and do that, but they wanted to see each other, so that kind of changed stuff in the last minute. And it was fine.
I think it made for a better product in general, having them all in one room. But the confusing part was sometimes you would see Rebecca, the main vocalist and acoustic player, playing acoustic and singing into a Loughton, right? Is that what she was on?
Yeah, the 208.
Yeah. And then you would see her, a few frames later, no acoustic, singing into a Soyuz, and then see her sitting playing acoustic.
Yeah.
And that's all it was. It was still, like you said, the cheap rig and your main rig were getting the exact same feed for everything all the time.
Yep.
There was no bait and switch in any of that video.
Wonder how we could bait and switch though.
One
thing I did think about doing was reversing and then making another video, but I was like, I don't want to do that. Like, I don't want to gaslight people.
I think that would just make people upset.
But I feel like that would have just solidified so many people's opinions and been they would have picked the expensive one because they wanted the expensive one to win.
Yeah.
And there are actually some people in the comments, and this is what I want to argue against so much, but they're like, this is dumb. You can't make records without XYZ gear or extending this stuff. I mean, there were some people saying even my studio setup is not professional.
Yeah.
That is, you can absolutely think that. I don't care.
That's fine. I mean, take that up with Billie Eilish and her laptop making
exactly.
absolute bangers.
What are we like? To that extent, I'm like, oh, this even matters less now.
Yeah.
Like, if
Yeah.
like, I don't care. Like,
I think we've talked about this in the past, but I think that one of the biggest benefits that you have with analog gear, not the you for everybody, I guess. One of the biggest benefits is like self-education. I think we talked about in the past where you get an outboard compressor and you have the knobs turn in real time. You have that tactile feedback and experimentation. It just seems like you're going to learn that thing maybe at an accelerated rate versus you have 12 different plugins that say they do the same thing, but under the hood, they're all a little bit different.
Yeah.
You pick a preset and then you go from there. Like, both are valid ways to learn and are probably good to try to do in tandem. And you don't have to have hardware to learn how to use it. But I also would never think that it's an absolute waste, the time and money that you've spent accumulating hardware.
No.
Even if we take sound quality completely out of the equation, I don't think it would be a waste at all.
And everything comes down to the music. I mean, does anybody short of us engineer snobs go and look at like, oh, this great sounding record, what mic did they use? Does anybody care? Like, nobody ultimately cares. Not even the artist cares.
Other than the feedback that they get in real time, right?
Yeah, if the push-pull is there and they're comfortable, then they are stoked.
Yeah.
Like, there's been times where a scratch vocal, like we've had a full band here, and we've used a scratch vocal with like a 57 because it was what was left, and I put it into a Digimax. Like, just my set of junk pre's that I use for talkbacks that I bought off of Craigslist for $20. It is gross. It's dirty. You turn the knobs. It sounds awful because it is ancient, but it serves that purpose for me. I don't want to spend $1,000 on 8 channels of analog preamps for talkbacks. It doesn't make sense. So for one particular session, we had this vocalist in there and it sounded great. Like, it was for that song, it worked. I was like, dang, these Digimax don't sound too bad.
Well, and I mean, that kind of stuff can just be a vibe. Isn't that the whole idea of like the Sherlock stuff? The Sure Lock.
Yeah.
Yeah. That talkback kind of compression distortion stuff that happens. But all in all, man, that was a lot of fun. It really genuinely surprised me how little of a difference there was.
Yeah.
And the places that had the bigger difference. So let's talk snare drum for a second, because I feel like that's where a majority of the people commenting about where they heard the most difference, it was the snare.
Which makes now that I've had time to think about it, I kind of understand a little more. Because people are like, why are you compressing the snare? No, there was no compression on any track. When I think in the video I said I hit things hard.
Yep.
Like, I am going into a compressor for bass, but it was not compressing. It was just getting the sound of that box. And like in some other places, the one place I did compress was the vocal, but on snare drum, what I was doing was distorting the preamp. As I said, if I'm going to hit a 1073, I'm going to hit it hard.
Yep.
Because you like the sound of that thing breaking up is
that's why people want a 1073. Yeah.
Like if I set it clean, then that's not really using that piece of gear for the intent that you would purchase it for.
Yeah.
So that snare was clipping a lot. I say a lot, maybe like 5-6 dB over 0.
Yeah. Enough to be clipping.
Yeah.
And enough to pick up, maybe not pick up, but to saturate those transients more so than the Behringer setup.
So it's going to bring up the level of everything around that snare drum. It's going to bring up the tail, and it's going to chop off the transient. in a really pleasing way, because the way my setup works, there's transformers everywhere.
Robots in disguise.
Oh, excuse me. Sorry, that was a good one.
Either I get rid of my pun to get rid of your burp, or I keep your burp and I get my pun. We'll see. Edit Josh. We'll see how it happens.
Hashtag burp puns. So chopping off that transient is part of why I would use that.
Mm-hmm.
You can't do that with the cheaper stuff. Like,
you can try.
You could clip it, but it's gross.
Yeah, it doesn't.
It's not a pleasing clip in there, and the fact that it's not the benefit you get with like an analog setup. You can hit a preamp hard and then exit and then hit something else. So that's what my Burl converters are doing. They have like a whole other set of transformers that it's going to hit before conversion.
Mm-hmm.
So you can push in super hard and you're not going to digitally clip. There's going to be a whole lot of iron, like you're hitting a desk or you're hitting a tape machine hard.
Yeah.
So like gain staging is in that sense a whole lot more forgiving and a lot more colored. Or with the other rig, the cheap rig, you can't do it like that. So that's why I'm like, is it as fun? No. Is it going to sound like a record? Because a lot of records have a whole lot of distortion and saturation added to them. Because that's the sound that we're used to. And something too clean and too surgical can almost sound a little off-putting.
Yeah.
So that was the main difference with the snare over on this one, because it's not getting clipped and that the signal's not getting squashed down.
Yep.
Like there wasn't compression happening, but all compression is effective. Like saturation is effectively compression.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, I'm right there with you.
There's no perfect way to do the test, but I wanted to do it that way, to be like, does this matter? It's not like I'm trying to match these two rigs.
That's the other point. Yeah. So there were a lot of people saying, like, if you just upgraded the Behringer Pre's to something like one step higher, like the Scarlet or something, or Claret, right?
Yeah, maybe.
But again, the point was not to, can we get the same sound out of these? The idea was, what is the difference here?
Yeah. And I literally told Sweetwater, when I had the idea for the video, I was like, send me the cheapest stuff you've got.
Yeah.
I don't care what it is. I literally told them, I don't care what it is. And then when we were talking about like, is this even possible? What sponsor would get behind it? I was like, if you have two people that aren't related to audio gear, like the actual stuff that I'm testing, that would probably be ideal, because I don't want it to seem like whatever you're sending me, that's who this is sponsored by, and therefore I'm going to try to make that look good.
Right.
Which I would never do anyway. It's all testing, but
yeah.
so it's like a case company and a cable company. Perfect.
Yep. Yep.
So there was like, I didn't know I was getting Behringers, but when they got there, I was like, yes.
Yeah.
They're literally the bottom of the line.
Yeah. And they get the job done, as we found.
It wasn't bad.
No.
Not fun to play with, but
an
interesting experiment nonetheless. But it all just comes back to like, is the music good? So if you don't want to start something because you can't afford a 1073 and a CL1B and some crazy microphone, well, maybe just buy literally the cheapest preamp or interface you can get your hands on that works, that functions, and spend your money on the microphone.
Well, first spend your money on the monitor.
The monitoring is important, and I don't think you need my set of monitors. I run Trio 6s, but having a good monitoring environment that you can hear what you're doing. Is it raining?
It is.
Wow.
Raindrops are gonna be falling on your head.
Trying to think if I rolled my windows up. I think I did.
I think you did. Do you wanna check?
You'll see. Having been through that whole process and like what matters, what doesn't, what's okay. I had a session this week, because we did this whole thing the week before, but I was like, let's just get weird with other stuff. So I slapped up things that I would never put up, and it sounded so cool.
It is that your like trash room?
Well, that was one of them. So at the end of we knew we wanted some crazy upright. So we literally just grabbed the harmonica mic and held it in front of the piano. It sounds so cool.
Dude, that sounds awesome.
But do you see like the DI on the floor that I'm using with that?
Oh, really?
The Shure
Yeah.
$100 harmonica mic is going into a $1,000 tube DI.
The red DI.
Which is
But that's gotta be.
fantastic,
Did you like crank it to have the DI saturate?
Yeah, and it sounds really cool.
Yeah, I want to hear that.
It was cool. So like, do the trashy thing, because sometimes that's the move. Like if I've learned anything from the comment section of this video, it's some people are way too caught up in like, this has to be perfect.
Mm-hmm.
And like, that was never where my mind was at with this. If anything, I wanted it to be like, to show the people who either already have started a studio and don't have the money for that crazy gear, that you can still do it. Mm-hmm. Or people who are afraid to start something because you feel like there's no way I could get the capital together for this. And $1,200 for a rig is nothing to scoff at, but it's a whole hell of a lot more approachable than thinking you need to compete at a commercial level with somebody.
I think it's also incredibly valuable for anybody that maybe you started your journey with a Focusrite 2i2, or even like a duet or something, like a lot of people do, 2-channel interface in your bedroom, and you want to expand. Maybe you'd like to have the opportunity to mic up a drum kit. Well, there's not a whole lot of affordable options to get that many inputs.
No.
But if you can get something that can support ADAT, you don't need to go all the way to the HD8 right out of the gate, because you can still find something with enough support to get, 10-ish channels or however much you want to mic a drum kit with one of those Behringer preamps. And now you're fine. You don't have to go out and shell, $1,500 or more to get a really IO heavy interface or something, just so you can start trying to record drums.
Right. And I'm not going to say, again, if your takeaway is that you never need expensive gear, I'm not even saying that. Because I think there's a hierarchy here of importance, and whatever becomes the bottleneck for you, that's what you attack next. Like, all of this thing is a journey. But if you can start this thing with focusing on monitoring and microphones, then get the preamps later. Because it is probably the least important part of the process. It is a part of the process. And once your ears are trained enough to go like, okay, now I hear the limitations of these preamps. Like, I want to do a little more with this. I want to add some saturation and some color. Then you can start dabbling and stuff like that. I think the next logical idea would be, okay, what's the difference in like my $10,000 Neve preamps, which are stupidly inflated in price right now?
It's pretty insane.
Like, okay, that, or like my Inward Connections Veramute compressor, which is stupidly inflated in price right now, and put that against some clones.
Yeah.
Like, not even like cheap interface, but like, let me find the cheapest clone I can find.
Yeah, what's the cheapest clone? Either that, or I know that this has maybe been done more often than that idea, but a plugin, which is going to feel different because you don't get like the actual analog interplay that happens.
That would be an interesting experiment, but I don't know that I want to go down the rabbit hole, because when you say something like that, I immediately go to Universal Audio.
It doesn't have to be, but I get what you're saying. Yeah.
And I don't know that I want to go down that rabbit hole of like being cornered into like a portion of the market. With
any of those options, I think that there are so many different routes to go down in terms of what people are offering, especially if you go plugins. Like, it's a never-ending well of 1176 plugins and stuff like that.
Never-ending whale.
Never-ending whale.
Whale.
You want to hop to Record Recs?
I think so. Have there been any submissions?
No, I haven't seen any. The last episode only got 2 comments, and there was just
Submit.
a zucchini and a eggplant, because we called for eggplants.
We love vegetables. I ain't gonna lie. Zucchini is a sneaky vegetable.
I like zucchini.
You can put it in everything.
Yeah. It's like flavorless in a way where it's still good by itself. Have you ever had a zucchini pie?
No.
Brother, it's great.
I've had zucchini bread.
Zucchini bread is also fantastic.
Yep. Dude, I made a tzatziki sauce.
Oh, I love
that. Grated me some zucchini, a little Greek yogurt, a lot of lemon juice. Oops, too much garlic, which was fine, good garlic.
Can we start a condiment company with like
oops, too much garlic?
Yeah, oops, too much garlic being the leading product.
Now it's time for Record Rex.
Record Rex.
Now it's time for Record Rex.
What you got? I got one if you want me to go first.
I'll go first. Do you remember the name Layla Hathaway? Does that ring a bell?
Uh-huh.
So
with Snarky Puppy, right?
That's where I first discovered her. So Layla Hathaway did a tune with Snarky Puppy. I think it was the Family Dinner. Is that what it was called?
Whatever one was like, they were on stage in a theater.
Yeah, and they had people listening with headphones live to their recording. So what blew me away with Layla was she could produce chords with her voice.
Chords with her chords.
Chords with her vocal cords. And she was awesome. It was great. Well, a new release just came out with Layla Hathaway and Nate Smith. Nate Smith, the drummer.
Okay.
Who was just nasty pocket.
He's on, what is it?
He's done stuff with Fearless Flyers,
Flyers,
and I think he's done some tunes with Wolfpack, which that's essentially the same group of people.
Right.
But this is called Automatic. It's just a cool groove, man. You got 2 heavy hitters making a song. I'll jump through because there's a long intro.
So Nate Smith.
Yeah. I love his snare sound, man.
I do.
Obviously, he's a great player, but his tones are good. I don't know who did the bass stuff in this, but it's pretty solid work. It's just a vibe, man. It's a good listen. It's not over the top production or over the top writing, but there's enough going on to keep you interested for the 5 minutes that it lasts.
I love her voice.
It's so good. It's like her voice is like velvety and full.
I was gonna say custard.
Ooh, custardy.
And I don't even really know that I've ever had custard.
You've never had Culver's?
Is that custard?
Yeah. I think it's on the sign, frozen custard.
Oh, okay. Well, have you ever had what's non-frozen custard then? When we just describe. Her voice is milk.
It is milky, yeah. Anyway, that is Automatic. Nate Smith and Layla Hathaway. New release came out. I like it, and hopefully you do too. Jeremy, what have you been listening to?
Mine's very different. American Football.
Ooh, I do like this band.
You know the band?
I do.
Where'd my playlist?
I haven't listened to them in a while. 2019 or so, I got pretty into them and listened to a lot of their stuff.
The song For Sure.
For score. Yep.
What is this called? Is this Midwest emo?
I think technically it is. I'm also really bad when it comes to genre naming things, but I wonder if their About has any more information on what they consider themselves. Doesn't look like it.
It's just a vibe, man. This is very much like running in the rain. I say running, it's a walk jog. I'm a wogger. But like 7 miles in the rain, this was a vibe, dude.
Yeah. All their stuff is really good.
It was very much along the lines of like this is like a happier side of like Russian circles.
Yeah. Or like take a little bit of atmosphere out of Explosions in the Sky.
Yeah, but just put Explosions in the Sky like in a pretentious music school for a couple years.
There you go. Yeah. I like them, man. I like American football.
I just found them.
They have a really cool writing style. They do that Chon-esque thing, but maybe not as technical, I suppose. Not as fast, I guess.
Yeah, they come across like more like Minus the Bear-ish to me.
Less bear.
I mean, like Chon. I know we talk about Chon a lot. Like every kind of jazzy instrumental thing.
Well, to me, I think more Chon in my mind is this like technical but clean guitar stuff that is more jazz centric, but used in more of a rock-esque context.
Yeah. Okay.
But
I dig. What do you?
I need to expand my horizons and get different things to compare stuff to, I suppose.
Put your recommendations of bands down below.
Indeed.
If we didn't say that before.
We didn't say that. If there are folks you know that have a band, drop it in the comments. If you have a band, put it in the comments. If there's stuff that you like to listen to that you think we would like to listen to, put it in the comments, especially if it's not really well known. Did we hit it?
You did?
Dang. That's 1,000.
Well done, my friend. 1,000 subscribers. That's the hardest one.
That's the hardest one. It's been a journey.
Still, subscribe. Anyway, it's been real.
It's been fun. It's been real
Real
fun.
fun.
There it is. Okay, bye.